All right, it is NFL Sunday, but it's also NASCAR Sunday. So, not expecting a ton of viewership. If you are watching this video, you're definitely a, diehard NASCAR fan, or you really enjoy, playing NASCAR DFS. So, thank you guys for sticking with us, as the NFL season comes around. But we're in the playoffs right now, so we're kind of winding down. But for whatever reason, if you're new here or if you watch these videos frequently, how can you help us? As always, liking, commenting, sharing, retweeting this just allows us to reach more people. Like I said, we hit our goal of 1,000 subscribers. I still don't really know what our next goal will be, but I will figure that out eventually. If you guys want access to this, it's over on X. It's at Fast Cars FM. And if you only play the Cup Series, we also post spreadsheets over there on X for the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series. I usually don't have time to do videos with the quick, usually single day turnarounds with practice qualifying in the race, but I do try to at least get a spreadsheet over there. So if you do like to play the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series, go check us out and give us a follow. Then, hey, if you had a good weekend, you just want to say thanks, support, my NASCAR memorabilia addiction. There's a couple of links there in the support tab for PayPal and Venmo. So, when we get to the race preview and initial thoughts, it is the second race of round one of the NASCAR playoffs. If you're not familiar with Gateway or Worldwide Technology Raceway, it is a kind of short, flat track type of style race. The long straightaways, kind of long, sweeping, flat corners. Um, as always with this next gen car, and especially here, you're going to hear a lot of how difficult it is to pass guys at this track. So for me, I'm really looking at, the last three races here. How have these drivers done? I want to look at practice. We have a 240 lap race today, so not terribly, too long. I still think you want to prioritize your 2 to 3, primary lap leaders and then get those place differential value plays in there. So when we get to the driver by driver breakdown, again, if you weren't here last week, the drivers in blue are the playoff drivers. So just to be mindful of who's in the playoffs. But when we look at the expensive range, we got Blaney, Hamlin, Bell, and Briscoe for the first time jumping up into the 10K range. But for me, really, the favorite guy I have up here is going to be Ryan Blaney. He looked really solid in practice. He had the fastest 15 and 20 lap averages in practice. And in the three races here, he's led 115 laps, has a top five and two top tens. Penske also runs really well here. If you look at track history, you're going to see Blaney, Logano, and Cindric up at the top. Starts fifth, so it gives you a little bit of place differential upside. Maybe if you think he can get out front and lead laps. I think he can, so I'm going to have most of my ownership today around the Penske cars, but I really like Ryan Blaney. We talked about track position, and Denny Hamlin has the best track position. He starts on the pole. He'll be able to hit the gas first, coming to the green flag. His numbers here aren't as strong historically as some of the other guys up here, but he hasn't led any laps here over those three races, which is slightly concerning. But with the track position and how this team's running, I don't mind him for tournaments. I do like Christopher Bell. He has pretty good track history here. He actually has the fourth best average finish of, around fourth. He also, or that's not right, but he has the fourth best average finish. I'll adjust that. But he also runs well here on these track types. He's more of a GPP play for someone to get a little bit different from the Penske group here. Let me just adjust that on the fly. Briscoe, like I said, he gets priced up to the 10K range. He did win last week, so that is a huge advantage for him coming into this weekend. He only cares about the stage, wins, getting those playoff points, and trying to win the race today to give him even more points, for the next round. But he does get a big salary bump. Good track position, more of a tournament play just based off of his track history and how he typically runs here. Byron's interesting, a little bit more of a tournament play for me. If you're going off practice, he was quickest in the 25 and 30 lap averages, which is encouraging. Otherwise, his track history here is just okay. Now, he has one top 10 in three races with an average finish of 14th. So, kind of go either way on him. Not going to have a ton of ownership, but I'm not counting him out either, just based off of those practice times. Larson gets a discount to where we normally see him priced, which makes me want to play him this weekend. He did the tire test here too, which I think will be an advantage for him. He does have the third best average finish here of 8.7, and he actually starts, up front right next to Hamlin. So if he can get that early lead or, slot in right behind Hamlin, I think him getting some fast laps or eventually getting out front, leading you some laps, is very possible for him today. And you get a nice price discount off of Hamlin with playing Larson as well. Reddick typically is not a guy that we play on these styles of tracks. In the three races here, he's only led 4 laps and has an average finish of 18.3. So I don't really feel that confidence in Reddick. I really do like Logano here. Logano has a win. He has finished top 10 in every single gateway race that we've run in the next gen era. He doesn't have that many laps led, I will say, with 23, but he does have a series best average finish of third. So really like the value you get here based off of the track history. Chase Elliott does give us some place differential upside. He has the second best averages in practice across the 20, 25, and 30 lap, which is good. His history here isn't great though, so kind of like William Byron, the practice speed is there, but the track history isn't that great. No top tens and an average finish of 17th. The nice thing with Elliott is he's a little bit cheaper than Byron, and he also gives you some place differential safety, whereas Byron starts a little bit further forward to the front. I would say of the two, I would imagine Byron has more lap leading upside, and Elliott is definitely a little bit of a safer play. I really do like Austin Cindric. I don't know how much people will play him, but he did win this race last year, and it wasn't really necessarily a fluke in my mind either. He does have the second best average finish here of 8.3, which is only behind Joey Logano. So people might be afraid to play Cindric just based off of who he is, where he starts, how he typically runs. But starting ninth, with how good Penske is here, I really like targeting him for tournaments today. I'm going to be overweight on all the Penske cars today. Bubba Wallace always shows good value each and every week. I feel like you can't go wrong playing Bubba Wallace. His numbers here don't really stand out that much, but typically how he's been running this year has been better than all of his, previous stats on the track. So I like him for, tournaments. He's definitely in the player pool. If you like Penske cars, I feel like you have to automatically like Josh Berry as well. I would still prefer the Penske trio, but Berry is an affiliate team of Penske, and I think that's really going to help him today. He is a playoff driver too, so that is encouraging. Kyle Busch is interesting. He has a win here. He has the most laps led with 202 over those 3 races. Really good average finish of 12.7. So if you're just looking at track history with him starting 22nd and being priced for $8,000, it's like, hey, play Kyle Busch. He's going to project really well. However, if we look at how he's running in the 2025 season, it has not been very good. So he's still in the player pool just based off of that history, but I would definitely be tempering your expectations if you are rostering him. Ross Chastain, I'm really not getting to. He's very affordable. He drops down in the 7K range, which is interesting. But starting fourth, I don't necessarily think he'll have the car to get out front and lead laps. I think he's going to slowly drop back. And if he can't really finish well or give you laps led or fast laps, I just think he's going to get outscored. I do like Brad Keselowski a lot today, starting 23rd. He was the fastest in the 10 lap average in practice, which is encouraging. Very affordable, good place differential upside to pair with those primary lap leaders that we kind of talked about. Busher has an average finish of 13th here, so kind of right around where he starts. I would prefer just paying the extra $200 and getting Brad K for the extra place differential. Bowman, I think, is going to get some ownership, and I would, temper your expectations with him a little bit as well. He is a playoff driver, so I think that helps. But his numbers here aren't as good as Brad Keselowski's. Bowman has an average finish here of 22.3, which is not good, and has 0 laps led and no top tens. So yes, he is a playoff driver. Yes, he gives you place differential upside. Yes, he's very affordable. The concern is he will be a mid-pack driver today. Austin Dillon starting 15th, kind of like Chris Buescher. Most likely he's going to run around this range. Not that many people are probably going to roster either of those guys. So maybe just some leverage plays to get different in tournaments. Otherwise, I'm not really looking to target them. Hocevar is always hard to trust. It seems like he's always getting involved on-track incidents with other drivers. Very inconsistent. Shows flashes of speed, and then other weeks where he runs in the back. So just, I'm not going to go crazy with Hocevar ownership. A guy that maybe I would go crazy ownership wise is going to be Ryan Preece. Feels like he's another guy like Bubba Wallace. I'm just constantly rostering, each and every week. It's been a great DFS play pretty much all season long. Very affordable, starts deep in the field, pretty good practice times. Track position is concerning. He might go a lap down early in this race with how difficult it is to pass. But he's a guy I feel confident in that can move forward. Ty Gibbs would be another guy. I'd prefer Priest just with the place differential, but Gibbs was quickest in the 5 lap average in practice. Does have an average finish here of 15.5. It is a JGR car for only 6.7K, so I really like him. These legacy cars have been running really well as of late. So we got Eric Jones and John Hunter Nemechek. Both of them are tournament plays for us. I would still prefer the Priestes and the Gibbs if you can, but I think their ownership will be higher. So if you're looking for a pivot leverage play, going to Jones or John Hunter Nemechek, I don't mind either of those plays. Justin Haley has decent track history here, but kind of like Kyle Busch, is just having a bad year. Pretty much every single race that he's run this year has been worse compared to where he is, typically run. Suarez maybe has some place differential upside, but his price tag just continues to drop each and every week. So the concern is he'll be a mid-pack driver. AJ Allmendinger is more of a GPP play. Didn't really show that much, speed in practice, but he does have two top 15s here in the two races. And a lot of people say, Gateway kind of races like a road course. So, I don't mind rostering AJ for some tournaments today. I do like Michael McDowell for kind of similar reasons. The alternative is that he had one of the best cars in practice yesterday. Gives us a good amount of place differential upside. Yes, he starts deep in the field. Most likely will take him some time to advance his position. But if you aren't playing, Michael McDowell down here, like who else are you really going to be rostering? So I really like McDowell for those reasons. SVG has not raced on this track before. He does start inside the top 20, which is encouraging. He needs to finish there. It's a playoff driver for only $5,800. This racetrack races kind of like a road course with how you need to brake and, get through the corners. So I don't mind him. I'm not going to go crazy, but, I'm going to definitely have a little bit of ownership to SVG. Shane Smith, good times in practice, but man, starting 10th is going to be tough to roster. For a punt play at that point, I would almost rather just drop down to Gill and Gregson or Stenhouse. Todd actually has been run pretty well here. Over the 3 races, he's finished 22nd, 15th, and 16th. Um, he was top 10 in single lap speed and in the 5 lap average as well too. So some decent upside there. Gregson's a little bit more of a tournament play, decent times in practice. He was top 10 in the 5, 10, and 15 lap averages, so that's encouraging. Ricky has just continuously started deep in the field. Did have top 20 speed in practice. I think, depending on how this race goes, a top 25 finish is very doable for him. Cole Custer, not really too interested here. Starts deep, probably finishes deep. Ty Dillon, I think, is running the DraftKings, paint scheme or wrap today. I know they're not offering that as a die cast unless he probably wins the race. Then I think they have to offer that. So for some miracle, I am hoping that Ty Dillon can win today, just so I can purchase that die cast. But otherwise, for DFS wise, starts deep, likely finishes deep. I don't really anticipate this race to get too crazy with cautions or accidents, so I think he'll be a back marker car today. And I can say the same thing with Riley Herbst and Cody Ware. So for me, it's really about the Penske cars today. I really like the Penske cars. I'm probably going to be building around them. There's some other drivers up there, that maybe you can pivot to as well with, the Hamlins, the Bells, the Larsons, some other place differential plays. So that's going to do it for the Fast Cars, Fast Money, Gateway, Worldwide Technology Raceway video. Hopefully this has been helpful. If it has, considering, sending us a $5 tip, it's greatly appreciated. But otherwise, have a great Sunday. Enjoy NFL, enjoy NASCAR. Well, guys, we'll catch you next weekend.